Welcome to the second edition of the OState Daily Podcast. Casey Porter here alongside Chase Witwiska. So glad that you decided to tune in. Chase, it was another frustrating weekend for OSU. It was a game that I know last week you said that you thought OSU would win. It was a game that was very, very, very winnable. They were not the favorites. But I'll tell you what, Iowa State, they weren't very good. OSU wasn't either. And the Pokes went and dropped a 7-point loss to the Iowa State Cyclones, 34-27.
Yeah, I mean that one has me a little nervous. You know, the schedule doesn't get much easier. You know, you look at the schedule and I thought they would pull out Iowa State fairly easily, and now there's a lot of questions. You know what I did see that I liked though is they went with one quarterback. So and I thought I think they moved the ball a little bit better with one guy. You know, and I'm curious to see what the other two starters would look like. I'm not saying that going forward that's the best choice. I think you need to settle on a guy and just say this is how it's going to be.
Yep.
But one's better than three. He was able to find some consistency and find a little bit of rhythm at times, and you could see that once he started to settle in a little bit, I think he performed okay. I wouldn't say he performed great. Good is pushing it, but
yeah.
I mean, it was better than three quarterbacks.
Having said that, I don't think the quarterback race is over. I think they used one quarterback for this game. I think they're liable to use another quarterback for the next game, and they'll still end up using all three, just not maybe in the same game, but you might see 3 games in a row with 3 different quarterbacks. So I think the quarterback situation is still up in the air just as much as it was this time last week, although Alan Bowman did play the entire game.
Yeah, I don't think that's a terrible idea. I do think that that's probably what should have happened the first 3 weeks. You just give one guy a game, and then you evaluate from there. Because you can only tell so much from 4 series. Like you heard Alan Bowman, in his press conference after the game, they asked him, what was it like to have a full game? And he said that, when you're going into the first quarter, you're it's okay to punt the ball. But when you know that you have 4 series, you have a limited amount of plays, you feel like you have to make things happen immediately, which causes bad decisions. It causes them to force the ball a little bit and try to do too much. When guys try to do too much, they don't perform as well. So I think that says a lot. I do think that you're right in terms of, we may see the other two. I'm fairly confident we will see the other two in that same exact situation. Gundy said that Bowman just fit the Iowa State scheme better than the other two did. And he had a really good week of practice, which is why he got the full game. So I'm curious to see what they do, with different pass rushes and different defenses that they're going to see throughout the Big 12 and these upcoming weeks.
I'd be interested to know what he meant by saying Bowman fit Iowa State's scheme better because, it's a 30 front, 3-man front with that 3-3-5. And I know, hey, there's more guys around the box. We see OSU run that, and they fire the 2 safeties up, and so it can end up being an 8-man box. So from that perspective, maybe you can pull the ball and pass it. But just from a 3-man front perspective, a 6-man box, a 3-3-5 defense, it just seems like to me that if you can threaten both sides of the line of scrimmage in a running game, with maybe if a quarterback can pull, like we saw with Alan Bowman in that first touchdown, that seems like would be more of a kryptonite to a 3-3-5 than a guy that's just going to try to stand in the pocket, maybe flush the pocket a little bit, use half the field to throw the ball with.
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I think what maybe he thought was, and this will lead into another conversation, he thought that he was going to be protected well enough to sit back and throw the ball. Because I do think that if you look at the three of the quarterbacks passing wise, Bowman's your best passer. I don't think that's a question. He's not as mobile as the other two guys, which he did. He ran a couple times and he looked pretty decent. He had to skip the pocket a bunch because the O-line just stunk it up again. But I think maybe that was the thought process, and knowing that they're returning their entire secondary from last year. Maybe he was thinking there's going to be tighter coverages, tighter windows, things like that. And he's the one that gives us the best chance to hit those windows, hit those throws, and make those plays.
And he did at times. Alan Bowman, 23 for 48, 278 yards, 2 touchdowns. Both touchdowns were good plays on his part, especially that last one. If you go back and you do my social medias, you can see any of it on OState Daily, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Hey, they ran that, that screen they like to run to the top of that formation. They ran that where they pulled the guard and the tackle. So they gave that screen look to get rid of a couple of linebackers. Then they gave a flood look to the H-back opposite that to the bottom of the screen, which, should have probably been uncovered by the time you run that screen. The linebacker for Iowa State stayed home, very disciplined, covered the H-back. So he came off, Alan Bowman did, that flood pattern, that little flat pattern to the H-back, came off of that and then threw the touchdown pass for the last one. That was a very impressive play. And to be honest with you, 23 for 48, that's less than 50%. Iowa State's defense is good, but, less than 50% for a completion percentage is not necessarily very good at all. But having said that, Iowa State played a ton of man coverage, just like that last interception that he threw. I mean, who's he supposed to throw it to? It's man coverage across the board, and not one single receiver got any type of separation whatsoever. I think that's probably, of all the things on the offense, we expect the offensive line. I think Bowman was okay at times to move the offense. I think the thing that was the most alarming to me that I didn't see coming, our receivers couldn't beat their corners and their safeties in man coverage. They could not get separation. That's alarming to me.
Yeah, that is concerning. I again, I'm going to go back to it because I don't know if I should think that highly of the Iowa State defense, but I think they're pretty good. And I think that they, with returning starters and things like that, that definitely helps. But I mean, the fact that we couldn't get open throughout the entire game is a little scary. And you wonder if it's the scheme. It has to be the scheme. You look at guys. Braylon Presley is one of the fastest guys on the field at all times.
2 receptions,
and he can't get separation. So I don't know if the routes are too simple. I don't know if the pocket is breaking down way too quickly. So I don't know if scramble drill, the receivers go into a scramble drill and they just try to find an open spot. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, so like if the secondary's in man coverage and your receivers are running down the field, those guys have to have their back turned to the line of scrimmage, right?
Yeah.
So if your quarterback can scramble, like we've seen Gunnar Gundy do a couple of times, and he's doing it into a man coverage on the back end, he's going to run for 20, 25 yards before the secondary even realizes that he's scrambling because they have their backs turned trying to cover a guy in man-to-man coverage. There are things like that I think this Oklahoma State team could have done to Iowa State to make them pay for playing man coverage that you just simply didn't do. It just seems like this offense is, hey, we're either going to hand it off or we're going to throw it. There's nothing in between, and there's just nothing that makes a defense guess wrong. And it just seems like a defense can run right to the ball in the run game. They can just stick to the receiver in the pass game, not worry about getting burned on any of the other aspects of it. And it just seems really, really simple from that perspective to me.
Yeah, I was going to say it seems like a really simple offense. There's not a whole lot of creativity, and especially, in this time in college football, you've got to have it, man. You not only for the sake of the defense having to account for it and things like that, but your guys have to have fun, man. Honestly, you got to let the guys have fun and perform and do things that they can do at a high level. You've got to know your players and what they can do and what they're capable of, and use their strengths. I like to look at the San Francisco 49ers. They're in the NFL, and God, they're fun to watch.
Yes.
I'm a Cowboys fan, so I hate the 49ers, but they are a lot of fun to watch. And it's because, golly, man, they're good at calling plays. They're really, really good at calling plays and using their guys in every way possible to make them successful. You look at Brock Purdy, who's an Iowa State guy. He was a good college quarterback, and he's a really, really good NFL quarterback. And there was an interview, and is it Kyle Shanahan? Kyle Shanahan's the head coach.
Yeah.
What makes Brock Purdy so good? He said, man, he just knows how to play football. And
he's a baller.
And he has the weapons around him to do so. Because they're putting Deebo Samuel in the backfield, they're splitting McCaffrey out. You can do that with these guys, and you saw it a little bit with Nixon. I will give it up on this play. You know, he motions out and he gets man coverage with a linebacker. He goes on a go route and it was like a 61-yarder or something like that. You've got to have more of that. You know, you see little.
This offense does. You don't have Justin Blackman,
right?
You don't have Des Bryant. You don't have these guys that are Blitnikoff type winners.
Right.
You got to have. You got to be creative for these guys. You can't just line them up and say go run out there and catch a ball.
Right, absolutely, and that's where the creativity comes in. Like you said, you don't have these guys. You don't have the Tylan Wallaces. You don't have Dez. You don't
James
have
Washington.
You don't have those guys. And hopefully recruiting and stuff like that. You know, in the near future, hopefully that changes. But right now, you got to work with what you got, and you can't. It's not going to get any easier than Iowa State.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of your competition, you know, I think this week is the best possible week to have a bye week. Coming off 2 losses, you know, there's a lot of stuff that they've got to figure out, and I think 2 weeks of practice is going to help. Also, 2 weeks of practice preparing for a very, very, very good Kansas State team.
Yeah.
So hopefully that plays to their advantage too. But they're going to go in at 6:30 on a Friday night and have to duke it out with one of the best teams in the Big 12.
Mm-hmm. And you know, Oklahoma State teams underneath Mike Gundy. I don't mean this to be a criticism, just kind of a historical fact. Never have played real good out of bye weeks. It just seems like they come out sluggish, almost like the first game of the year. It's like they've almost worked on too many of the simple things so much that they're almost sluggish coming out of the bye week. So that game with Kansas State is going to be incredibly difficult. You know, that's just a matchup that, you know, boy, you know, that's a well-oiled machine over there. Colin Klein calling plays for Chris Kleiman and the defense they're running over there. The Wildcats have it going on. I know they've lost a game this year, but you know, hey, that, you know, still. That's a situation to where K-State's a very, very good team. OSU would have to play. I think OSU would probably have to play their A game to beat Kansas State. I think Kansas State would probably have to play somewhere maybe a low B, even top C type game for OSU to win that game. But we'll get into that here in a minute. Okay, it was nice to see Ollie Gordon get plenty of carries. We've said it last week. 18 carries, 121 yards. When you give this guy the ball, you know, hey, he's not going to get 11 yards every time you give it to him, right? But he's that explosive type guy that has the big body, the great speed, that if you do give it to him 18 times, you can expect him to bust at least 1 or 2 per game. We saw that with the big 71-yard run there in the first half. Yeah,
man, absolutely. He's one of my favorite guys to watch on the Oklahoma State offense. He gets me excited. You know, yes. you know that he's one handoff away from making a very big play. And a lot of the time it's just pure athleticism, and he's really good. He's really, really good. And he's one of those guys like Presley. You got to get him the ball. You got to find a way to get him the ball. And that's not just running power, running sweep or whatever, you know, split him out, send him in motion, do whatever you can to get Ollie Gordon the ball. And I think that you're going to find a lot of success in that. You know, a lot of people, I think it was the announcers were like talking about how slow he was because he got caught on the 71-yard run. The dude reached 20, I think it was like 20.8 miles an hour. That's not slow. I mean, I don't know what world that's slow in.
You know, Alabama reached 19 miles an hour. They've actually clocked him. Isn't that kind of amazing?
That's crazy. That's a big body.
Yeah. Okay. So Brendan Presley, what are we doing, man? I mean, 2 catches, no carries. You can't get him on a jet sweep or a bubble or a quick or, I mean, two receptions. That's it. That's all you can do for him. I'm telling you, if I'm him right now, and does he have this? It's the senior year, correct?
I believe he has one more year left. I think.
Okay, I'm not at Oklahoma State next year if this continues. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, you're not wrong.
I can't justify staying here.
You know,
two receptions, no carries.
Yeah, and I'm not. I don't obviously I don't know what's going to happen. He's put 4 really good years into here, so I hope he stays. I hope that they find ways to get him the ball and are creative with him. I would like to see him in the backfield with Ollie Gordon. You know, having a little 2-back action and sending guys, you know, sending him on a wheel route or sending him on just a simple out route or a swing pass, something. You know, let him make plays, let him make moves and stuff like that. Make guys miss. That's what he's good at. If he does leave, right, yeah,
tunnel screen, something.
Absolutely. If he does leave, don't be surprised if he goes to Tulsa with his brother.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised. I mean, they're not necessarily, obviously they're not the best team.
Yeah, but let me
around
say
here.
this, Chase. Those Tulsa schools, SMU, in a lot of ways, they're in better shape than OSU, even though their conference, SMU is now. But Tulsa, maybe their conference isn't as good, but schools like Tulsa, they're going to have pocketbooks that are deeper than OSU because they have alums that can shell it out. I mean, a place like SMU is getting ready to have a very level playing field.
Well, yeah, and SMU is about to go into a Power 5, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
they are. Yeah, the ACC.
Is it the ACC? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another factor. You know, I'm just saying, knowing, I feel like I'm fairly familiar with it. I think that him and his brother have a really good relationship.
Yeah.
Playing with your brother is always something really special. I've never been able to do it. I got to coach him, and that was a blast too. But I couldn't even imagine, you know, suiting up next to him and having the same goal in mind, you know, going to fight for each other and stuff like that. That's a good time. So if he does leave, and it may be really tempting for him to go to Tulsa.
Yep. And if it stays like this at this pace, like I said, I can't blame him. Jaden Nixon, 2 carries on the night. He had 2 receptions. I thought they did a good job. I think Jaden Nixon needs 8 to 10 touches. The dude has wiggle, which is what this offense needs. You know, he can make guys miss. He's not very big, but he can run. I mean, this offense needs speed. You know, we've seen this offense has to have big plays to survive, to be successful at all. We saw that with a 71-yard run by Ollie Gordon, you know. So I think Jaden Nixon's another guy, along with Braden Presley, that can provide you some you know, make guys miss type thing, and can provide you some big plays throughout a game. I think 4 carries, hey, you know, that's not terrible, but I think you can double that. I think you need to double that for Jaden Nixon.
Yeah, Nixon, he's good. I'm surprised we didn't see Elijah Collins. I don't.
Yeah.
Was he hurt, or did he just not play?
I just don't think that there was enough possessions to get everybody the amount of touches they needed.
I mean, yeah. I mean, right. I mean, if you look statistically, before last week, Elijah Collins was your second best back.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that Jaden Nixon's bad, but I would like to see, you know, obviously Ollie takes the one. And then they kind of split carries between Elijah Collins and Jaden Nixon, depending on situations and stuff, when Ollie needs to take a break, because you can't run a guy, you know, 20, 25, 30 times and expect him to just be 100% all the time. I mean, the dude takes a beating. You know, there's big dudes coming to hurt you every play. So he's obviously going to need some breathers. So I would like to see Elijah Collins get some carries too.
Yep, no doubt. Okay, defensively. The thing that stuck out about me, you know, hey, in this odd stack 3-3-5 defense, we're firing safeties, it seemed like every single play. And that field at Iowa State, that Kentucky blue ryegrass was very, very, very thick. It was very tall, and it was very slick. Saw guys slipping all day long Saturday. And, you know, hey, that one touchdown, of course, the safety needs to do a better job in coverage. It was the freshman back there. But you saw 2 safeties fire up to the line of scrimmage to play run. Iowa State play actions. You leave a freshman safety on a field that has terrible footing in man-to-man coverage, and Iowa State catches it, just runs into the end zone. That was just frustrating. I mean, I just wanted to throw my remote at the TV, like, what in the world are we doing? I mean, you're taking Kendall Daniels and you're taking, you know, your best players, and you're putting them up at the line of scrimmage, and then the quarterback's just reading that. And then as soon as he reads that both safeties come up to the line of scrimmage, he just pulls it and hits a little slant, and he's wide open and runs in the end zone. I mean, it just doesn't get any easier for an offense than the way that touchdown scored. And then also, Colin Oliver, 0 sacks. 0 sacks for Colin Oliver. As a matter of fact, on the day, you know how many sacks Oklahoma State had?
0.
I mean, you're talking about a defense that's firing safeties every other play, it seems like, and sometimes both safeties on the back end, and then on the other side of that, you're not getting any sacks.
If you see that as a result as a defensive coordinator, if you're not able to get pressure, then stop sending your guys.
Correct.
Stop.
It's got to be one or the other. That's
it's
my
not
point.
Working.
Exactly.
It's not working. I did see Colin Oliver get in the backfield a little bit, but he never got a sack. He did have
that was targeting, by the way. We got lucky on that one.
He smoked him. It was awesome.
Yeah, he did.
But he did have 2 tackles for loss. I think he had 5 tackles on the day. Again, I mean, and they were sending this guy a ton.
Yeah, Kendall Daniels.
Yes, thank you. He led the team in tackles again.
Yeah.
your safety can't lead in tackles.
That's kind of how this seems like this defense sets up. It's like those safeties are, and Jim Knowles learned this lesson. He came in with that very aggressive 4-2-5. He had 2 deep safeties and quarters coverage. They were both playing run and pass, right? So like if you read run, then you come in and you fire on run, and then you rotate that way. And then what teams were doing is that they would fake the run and then pass. And they were making our safeties be wrong every time. So he had to really change the back end of the way that he worked when he was at Duke to match the way Big 12 offenses play. And so he did. And then it worked. And then we had the best defense we've ever had in 2021. Right. And now we're back to, we're having guys that are playing both run, playing pass. The quarterbacks, as average as that quarterback was for Iowa State, and they simplified their offense incredibly for him. I mean, it's a guy that doesn't have a whole lot of experience. We're talking about Rocco Beck. I think he's their 3rd-string quarterback. Still, I mean, he's just reading Kendall Daniels. When Kendall Daniels fires up the line of scrimmage, he just pulls it and throws the ball. I mean, that's not very hard for a college quarterback to do.
It's not, and I'm not trying. Listen, I'm not talking down on him. I'm not talking down on Division II or Division III football. This is Division I football. This is Power 5 football. You're on an Oklahoma State team who should be nationally ranked every single year. Every single week they should be nationally ranked, just like they have been in the past. You can't run it like a Division II or Division III defense, and maybe it takes a little bit for him to adjust. But
the plays that Iowa State was able to make, it just seemed like were so easy. I mean, it's like we either did something so incredibly dumb to give them a good play, or just seemed like it was too easy. I don't know.
You made a freshman quarterback at Iowa State look like a Heisman candidate is what happened. I mean,
looked all day long, he looked like he had no confidence, but yet Oklahoma State was just giving him confidence.
Well, I mean, if you look at his stats, I mean, he's probably walking around campus with the biggest head in the world right now.
27 38.
Granted,
3 touches and no interceptions.
There were a couple times where he threw touchdowns there wasn't anybody. I mean, there wasn't anybody within 25 yards of the guy that he threw to. But I will say this, Justin Wright, the guy out of Tulsa, finally made his debut. He didn't play a ton, but I like him. The times that I did see him in the game. He looks like he's going to be a really good leader, which is what that defense needs. He reminds me a little bit of a Malcolm Rodriguez. He plays with a lot of intensity. He plays with a lot of confidence. He plays with a lot of I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. Confidence, I guess.
Swag.
He just has fun, man. He goes and makes a tackle, and he's up and screaming when they're down two touchdowns or whatever. Yeah. He knows that each snap that he gets is important. And I think that if you can get your whole defense to buy into that on every single snap, you're going to see a lot of improvements just from that. So I'm excited to see him become a part of the defense and become a little bit more active in it.
Yeah, 2 tackles on the day for Justin Wright. So where does this team go from here? Coach Gundy said, hey, he's not worried about the team morale. Okay, but honestly, and I hope this doesn't sound too negative, but I don't think he has any clue what that locker room's even like right now. I personally think he's lost the locker room. I don't know. They have it. Am I wrong?
I'm not in it, so I don't know. I mean, that's all I can say. I've been in my fair share of locker rooms. I've been in good ones and I've been in bad ones.
Yes.
And you can definitely tell the difference in performance when you don't have faith in your teammates. You don't like how things are going with the coaching staff. And I'm not saying this is happening at Oklahoma State. I'm not saying that it isn't. I don't know. I'm not able to be in the locker room, be around those guys and have some sort of read or some sort of feel on how things are going in there. I don't know if anybody outside of the team will ever know that answer. Just because
other than the fact that they lost how many starters last year to the transfer portal.
Yeah, that was ugly.
That was a pretty good indication of what the locker room was like last year. And there's rumors that there's going to be a mass exodus this year. I don't like those rumors. I think it's stupid to start rumors
true.
like that. But
I mean, the max exodus was supposed to come the second they lost to Iowa State, and I haven't heard anything yet.
Well, the idea is that if you play 4 games and then you transfer, you still get the red shirt. That's the idea behind that. Yeah. So if they play in the next game, that would be the 5th game, right?
Right, and I think,
and so then they lose they lose their red shirt. So the idea is they were all going to quit after the fourth game. They were going to get this year back in eligibility due to red shirt, and they were going to transfer out.
it's a joke. It's an absolute joke. I don't believe it for a second.
Yeah,
I really don't. I don't think things have gotten that bad. I know. You know, 2 losses sucks. You know, but it is what it is. You just kind of have to move past it. You know, I think there is a whole lot of upside that people don't see in the Oklahoma State football team. There really is.
There's talent there.
I don't think that you can go. I don't think that you're going to go, 2-9. No way. You know,
2-10, yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now.
You might go 4-8 though.
Yeah, that's a possibility. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know. There's a whole lot of ins and outs and all kinds of things. But speaking as a fan and then speaking as somebody that's been around football and knows football, I would say pretty well there is still a lot of upside to the Oklahoma State football team.
I would agree. So, how many of these performances would it take this year for you to not go to a home game?
I'm not ever going to not go.
Yeah,
you know, first of all, I'm a fan. You know, I graduated from there. Loyal and true means something to me. I mean, it may not mean something to somebody else. And that's fine. It is what it is. But I also paid for my dadgum season ticket, so I'm going to use it. You know? But no, I mean, I'm always going to be a fan, whether they suck and they go 2-10 or whatever, or if they're 10-1 or 10-2 or what. I'm always going to be there. You know, I don't know.
I can tell you that I was at every single game, and I saw every second of the 10-1 season. I didn't, as far as the home games go.
Yeah.
Didn't miss a home game, did not leave early, got there early, and even though we weren't winning, it still was one of my favorite things on earth to do. So definitely diehard fans. So, okay, Chase, this has been fun for our second outing. We're going to make this a little bit more regular as we keep going. We're very busy right now just getting everything started. And I know you're refereeing some football. I'm coaching some football myself and all that. So it's a very busy time. But, hey, final thoughts for Oklahoma State as we enter the bye week. One good thing is OSU is not going to lose this weekend.
Yeah. I mean, that's always a plus, right? But no, man, it's not – the season's far from over. I mean, it really is. I've seen crazier things happen. You know, there's a lot of upside to the group. I don't think they're going to have it easy the next couple of weeks with Kansas State and Kansas. But I've also been inside of Boone Pickens when people say it's one of the hardest places to play in football. And that's coming from guys that have played on a big stage like Max Duggan last year. Right. I saw an interview with him. You know, what's the hardest place? I mean, what's the toughest place that you've ever played at? And without hesitation, he said Stillwater, Oklahoma. That it feels like the fans are on top of you because of how tight the sidelines are.
They are.
And I'll tell you, it gets loud. It gets loud for 55, 60,000 people in there. It gets really, really, really loud. Mm-hmm. The players and stuff like that, I can tell you as a former player, you feed off the energy from the fans and from the environment and stuff like that. So I can tell you the season is far from over. Yeah,
no doubt about it. And you just got to keep grinding. You just got to keep showing up every single day. Of course, that's the baseball player, coach, baseball guy, whatever you want, coming out in both of us. It's just, hey, you just wake up the next day and you just tackle the next day as it comes. And I think that's kind of how OSU has to approach this. So, hey, this has been a good conversation, Chase. I appreciate you joining.
Absolutely, man. It was fun.
All right, fans, thank you so much for tuning in to our second edition of the OState Daily Podcast. I want to remind you, hey, make sure and leave a comment. Tell all your friends about OState Daily, the podcast. Also, hey, make sure and check out one of our social media platforms, whether it be Twitter, that's OState_Daily, or you can go to the Facebook, our Facebook OState Daily Facebook page, or you can go to our Instagram, OState Daily as well. And then we also have TikTok. And don't forget to leave a like, interact with this video. That helps with the algorithm on YouTube, helps it get seen out there, and helps us get more views so we can keep growing. And lastly, make sure and turn on your notifications. That way, every time Chase and I drop a new video, you'll be notified and you'll never miss our latest podcast. So for saying that, I would like to say thanks to Chase for joining in with me on today's podcast, and go Pokes.